remember to click like, subscribe, the bell notification, and whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us. Welcome! I am the Kaiju no Kami from the Toku and Animation News Network. And today I'm going to be taking a look at a new Godzilla miniseries from IDW titled Monsterpiece Theater. Join me for the next 3 installments as we talk about this series. Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater was announced to be a 3-part adventure written and drawn by Tom Scioli. Scioli took a lot of inspiration from Jack Kirby and has worked very hard to make his art style mimic his. You can clearly see the influences in this very Godzilla issue. The cover alone is a great love letter in reference to Fantastic Four #1. Jack Kirby, you say? Interesting. But how is Monsterpiece Theater on its own? The Jack Kirby influences are great and all, but it means nothing if the story is not good. Let's watch to find out. The characters and plot. So the story of Monsterpiece Theater is like merging the Great Gatsby and other literary characters with Godzilla. Okay. It starts off in 1917 with Gatsby fawning over a woman named Daisy before he heads out to battle in World War I. Years later, he is moved to a house by Daisy and throws an incredible party when Godzilla strikes. Daisy is lost at sea, which results in Gatsby turning to Thomas Edison for help on stopping the nuclear nuisance. Would he actually be nuclear at this point? Whatever. Godzilla emerges once again to ravage New York, which does have a pretty hysterical moment from these firefighters. Yeah, they're dumb. Gatsby shows up with the military utilizing the name G-Force as they begin their slightly successful counterattack. From here, we've got Sherlock Holmes, Jules Verne, and Dracula making appearances, all of which are random. Sherlock Holmes gets a couple of great lines from a pun he makes to this hilarious comment in regard to Edison. Jules Verne is a freaking cyborg who helps Gatsby while Dracula just happens to be in the way when Godzilla attacks London. Well, that was certainly something. I'm a bit confused on what the whole purpose of this story is, and yet I am intrigued. Having all of these characters from classic literature is an interesting way of introducing modern audiences to them, but the way they appear just feels so random. I was taken aback by Jules Verne appearing as a cyborg, as it was just so ridiculous. Dracula showing up in the midst of Godzilla's attack in London was just icing on the cake. I am so lost, and yet I want to see more. The monsters. Sorry. As of this time, Godzilla is the only monster to appear. I doubt it will stay that way, as these multi-part stories seem to feel the need to cram other monsters into them since they do not know how to handle Godzilla being on his own. Speaking of whom, Godzilla is portrayed more like a giant child causing mischief rather than a monster that is destroying cities for the sake of it. There is a sequence where he picks up 2 buses in London and smashes them together while having a big grin on his face, as if he is doing it on purpose. The artwork. Like with the story itself, the artwork is interesting. It's drawn in a fashion that reminds me of Golden Age style comics mixed with the coloring of a Bazooka Joe one. Combine that with the Kirby influences mentioned earlier and you have one hell of a comic. Even the paper the art is printed on has a darkened hue to it, mimicking comics of old. Character designs are very basic with a variety of shades that would drive anyone wanting a set tone bonkers. I really like the use of shadows, especially the night scenes when Godzilla attacks. The way the art is presented resemble watercolors with a tad of silliness added into the mix. Godzilla Monsterpiece Theater is clearly not meant to be taken seriously, and yet there was a sense of danger on almost every panel from what was happening within the story. I am very intrigued, even though it was very confusing. I cannot wait to see what happens next. Until next time, bye.